Hi, my name is Shawn Hughes. We're going to be going over endochondral ossification today. Endochondral ossification is the second type of bone formation in the human fetus. So as we see here, what the endochondral ossification uses is a hyaline bone model to form long bones of the human body. So what this is made out of is chondrocytes. What happens in endochondral ossification is osteoblasts on the outside of the hyaline cartilage start to form the periosteum here in brown. What the periosteum is then called the bone collar. While this is also going on, the perichondrium is being formed at the ends of the bone model to protect the cartilage while bone is being formed in the fetus. So now that we have osteoblast forming bone, also known as the bone collar, what this does is it cuts off nutrients to chondrocytes in lacunae in the center of the hyaline cartilage. What that then causes them to do is they begin to calcify and leave cavities in the lacunae and die. What that then leaves behind is a cavity that then is pierced by blood vessels shortly after. And the blood vessels begin to bring nutrients into the cavity left over from the dying chondrocytes and lacunae. These blood vessels bring with them the nutrients that were cut off. What comes in at that time is fibroblasts and other nutrients. Those fibroblasts begin to differentiate into osteoblasts. Osteoblasts begin to make spongy bone. It's this yellow you won't really be able to see, but that spongy bone is what begins to be formed. As that spongy bone begins to form, in the long bone, this is now called the primary ossification center. That spongy bone begins to remodel and now is called compact bone. So spongy bone then remodels to compact bone, leaving behind the medullary cavity. In the middle of the bone is now called the diaphysis. While this is all taking place at about the same time, at either end, the perichondrium is still protecting the hyaline cartilage, and blood vessels now begin to pierce the epiphysis, and it will create what is then called secondary ossification centers. These secondary ossification centers then begin to start forming spongy bone as well. Again, the yellow is hard to see, but we're creating spongy bone at the epiphysis. At the epiphysis, or the ends of the long bone, is the last stage of actual bone growth of the long bone. So then what we're left over with is an elongated diaphysis here with the medullary cavity being remodeled constantly into compact bone from spongy bone. Blood vessels are still in here. We have the secondary ossification center. We form spongy bone at either end. So the only cartilage that is left over from the hyaline cartilage model is in two places at either end of the epiphysis. The two things that are left over are articular cartilage and the epiphyseal growth plate. This is also known as, this zone in between the epiphysis and diaphysis is known as the metaphysis. So this, as the bone grows after birth and into adolescence, this cartilage that's left over is remodeled into bone, and that is known as the metaphysis, right here in the growth plate or the epiphyseal plate. So then, once adolescence or full growth of the long bones in the human body are formed, the only cartilage left over from the original hyaline cartilage model is the articular cartilage at either end of the long bones of the body. and this is endochondral ossification.